I used to think my life was close to perfect. A stable job, a warm house, a husband who smiled at me every morning, and Max, our golden retriever, my constant shadow. He wasn't just a pet. Max was my confidant, my walking partner, the one who waited at the door every evening with the kind of joy no human ever gives you. Ryan, my husband, had grown quieter in recent months, but I chalked it up to stress. His work in finance demanded long hours, and the markets had been volatile. That's what he told me, and I believed him. Or maybe I wanted to. My birthday was coming up, and though he hadn't mentioned it, I assumed he was planning something. Ryan always remembered. Last year, he surprised me with a weekend trip to the coast.
He was always thoughtful like that. Or he used to be.
This year, there were no hints, no winks, no casual questions like, "What are you doing Saturday?" Just silence, and his phone always face down. Max had started behaving differently. He'd sniff Ryan's clothes, then look up at me with those eyes, like he wanted to say something. He growled one evening when Ryan tried to pet him, and Ryan laughed it off. Guess someone's grumpy. I thought maybe Max was getting older, more sensitive. I didn't connect it to anything. Not then. I made dinner like I always did, set the table for two, and Ryan texted me from the driveway, running late. Eat without me. Max sat by the door for an hour, ears twitching at every passing car. He knew something wasn't right.
So did I.
But I told myself otherwise. Ryan came in later, showered, kissed the top of my head, and mumbled something about a long day. No mention of the meal I cooked. No real eye contact. I asked him if he was okay. He smiled, tight-lipped, and said, "Just tired." I started noticing things that didn't make sense. He had cologne I hadn't seen before. His shirt sometimes smelled like perfume I didn't wear. When I asked, he said a female coworker hugged him after a promotion. "You know how Susan is," he joked. But I didn't know Susan, and I hadn't heard about a promotion. I wanted to trust him. I really did. But I stopped asking questions because I didn't want the answers. Max never left my side. He followed me from room to room, especially when Ryan was home. Once, I found him lying in front of the bedroom door, like he was guarding it. Or guarding me. I brushed it off as a phase, a behavior thing. But now, when I look back, I see it differently. It was 3 days before my birthday, when Ryan said he might be away on business that weekend. My stomach sank. I nodded like it didn't matter. But it did. And Max, sitting beside me, let out a low, uneasy whine. I think he felt what I refused to admit. Something was already broken. Of course. Here's section 2 of the script. Word count. 500 words. Direct, emotionally layered, and progressing the story without repetition or filler. The day before my birthday, I found one of Ryan's dress shirts on the floor, inside out and half under the bed. It smelled like lavender and something unfamiliar. Definitely not my detergent. I held it for a second, heart racing, and told myself not to jump to conclusions. But Max was already there, nose pressed into the fabric, then turning to look at me like he expected me to understand. I didn't. Not yet. That morning, Ryan left early, claiming he had a client meeting. No kiss goodbye, just a rushed step out the door. He used to linger. Even on busy days, he'd touch my shoulder, say, "You got this." But those small things had stopped without notice, like they were erased from our routine by someone else's influence. I tried to distract myself by cleaning the house, but everything I touched fell off. The couch cushion had a faint mark, like lipstick. There was a wine glass in the sink that didn't match the one I'd used the night before. I told myself maybe he had a friend over after I'd gone to bed. Maybe. But Max had growled that night when Ryan came home. He never growled before. It wasn't aggression, it was warning. That afternoon, I went into Ryan's office to grab a book. His laptop was open, and without meaning to snoop, I saw a message preview pop up. A name I didn't recognize, and a heart emoji. It vanished before I could read more. I felt cold. Not angry yet, just frozen. I closed the laptop and walked out, Max close behind me like he knew I'd seen enough. That night, I confronted him, gently. Asked if everything was okay between us. His answer was too quick. Of course. Why wouldn't it be?
He didn't look at me.
He kept scrolling on his phone. I asked who he'd been texting so much lately. He said it was work stuff, his tone flat, as if I was bothering him. I waited for warmth, for reassurance, for the Ryan I knew. Nothing came. I didn't push further. I just nodded and went to bed early, feeling like a guest in my own marriage. Max jumped onto the bed and curled beside me like a blanket. Ryan didn't come in until long after midnight. I pretended to sleep. I heard him moving quietly, too quietly, as if he didn't want to wake me or didn't want to be seen. The next morning was my birthday. Ryan handed me a gift bag without looking up from his phone. A candle. No note. No card. No smile. Just a quick, happy birthday, babe. Then he said he had a meeting and left. I stood in the kitchen holding that candle, wondering what it was supposed to mean. Max walked over, sniffed it, then barked. Just once.
Loud.
I swear it sounded like anger. Or maybe it was grief. Either way, I suddenly felt like I wasn't the one being celebrated. I was being left behind. After Ryan left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at the flickering candle. I hadn't made any plans. I was hoping he'd surprise me, maybe take the day off, or at least pretend to care. Instead, I got silence and a lavender-scented reminder that I was no longer his priority. I didn't cry. I just felt hollow, like something essential had been quietly stolen from me. Max wouldn't stop pacing. He kept circling the living room, sniffing, whining, then darting toward the hallway. I followed him, unsure what he was reacting to. He stopped in front of the laundry basket, pawed at Ryan's clothes, and then pulled out a shirt I hadn't seen before. It wasn't mine. Not Ryan's either. It was a silky, red blouse, delicate and clearly feminine. I stood frozen, heart pounding. It smelled like the same perfume I'd caught a whiff of last week on his collar. I didn't know how it got there. Maybe she'd been here. Maybe she'd worn it, taken it off, and forgotten it. Or maybe Ryan had hidden it, and Max had simply unearthed the truth. Either way, it was proof. And it hit harder than I expected. I wasn't angry. I was embarrassed. For trusting him, for doubting my instincts, for making excuses every time Max tried to show me what I didn't want to see. I went to Ryan's office and opened his laptop.
I didn't hesitate this time.
The messages were still there. Her name was Lily. They'd been texting for months. There were photos, love notes, plans. He called her beautiful. Said she made him feel alive again.
Alive.
That word lodged in my throat. I didn't scroll further. I'd seen enough. I sat on the couch, the red blouse next to me, Max resting his head on my lap. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From clarity. Everything made sense now. The distance, the late nights, the empty smiles. And Max, trying so hard to tell me without words.
He had been warning me, protecting me.
And now, he had shown me what I was too afraid to see. The room was quiet. Too quiet. I realized that I'd been living in a lie that only Max had been honest about. Not with words, but with presence, with behavior, with instinct. That was the gift I got on my birthday. Not the candle. Not the empty babe. But this moment of truth delivered by the one soul who had never let me down. I didn't call Ryan. I didn't text. I sat there with the truth spread out in front of me, feeling strangely calm. Max looked up at me, his eyes steady and sure, like he knew I finally understood. He hadn't just given me proof. He had given me permission to let go. Here is section 4 of the script, written with precision and emotional clarity, staying direct and focused without repeating any prior content. Word count, 500 words. When Ryan came home that night, I was waiting. I didn't raise my voice or ask why. I simply handed him the blouse. His face froze. There was no denial, no attempt to lie. Just silence. Asked how long.
He said 6 months.
He didn't apologize. He looked ashamed, but also relieved, like a man who'd been caught and no longer had to pretend. I told him to pack a bag. He didn't argue. He said it wasn't about me, that he just felt disconnected, like something was missing. I let him talk. I didn't interrupt. I didn't need to defend myself. His words were weak. I'd carried this marriage while he drifted off to someone else. And while I was wondering how to fix things, he was writing love notes to another woman. I told him I deserved honesty, not sympathy. I didn't want to know if he loved her. I didn't want to know what they shared. I didn't ask if he ever planned to tell me. I just told him we were done. Not because he cheated, but because he stopped choosing me long before that. He left with a small suitcase and no promise to return. No tears. No dramatic goodbye. Just a quiet door clicking shut behind him. The house was still. I walked through each room, not looking for anything, just adjusting to the emptiness. It didn't feel sad. It felt clean. Max followed me, tail low, ears back. I sat on the floor and hugged him. He leaned into me like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. I whispered thank you, over and over, because he had seen what I refused to. He never judged me. He never gave up. He was there every second I felt most alone, grounding me without needing words. That night, I slept with the window open and no phone near the bed. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was mine. In the morning, I woke up before the sun. Max and I took a long walk. No destination. Just movement. Just being alive in a world that suddenly felt honest again. People say betrayal breaks you. But it didn't. It stripped me down to something true. I saw what I tolerated, what I ignored, what I blamed on work and stress and timing. And I saw what real loyalty looks like. It doesn't wear a ring or make promises it doesn't keep. It watches over you, quietly, faithfully, even when you're blind. I never told anyone about the messages or the blouse. I didn't need to. I started over, quietly, like closing a book I no longer needed to read. My birthday had come and gone. I didn't get flowers or dinner or love notes. But I got something better. I got my life back. And I got to share it with the only soul who never lied to me.